When all else fails, Democrats use another pandemic to scare us. I mean, it worked so well for them the first time, right? Well, right now there's this story that's going around of a suspected Ebola exposure at a Manhattan urgent care facility. In short, guys, in liberal New York, 2 patients were rushed to the hospital by emergency workers in hazmat suits, but the infection may be norovirus. Still, you never know with these Democrats. I still remember back in 2021, even after President Biden himself admitted that the pandemic is over, he continued to use his permanent pandemic narrative to justify trillions of dollars in spending that sparked the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Plus, of course, you got the recent House panel finding that the C-19 killed more than 1.2 million Americans after likely leaking from a Chinese lab that was in part funded by U.S. taxpayers. Meanwhile, the government was under the Biden administration. And so you got President Trump now. He's floated the idea of forcing China to pay $50 trillion to compensate other countries for the widespread death and economic and social consequences of the virus. There was even talk of a global summit on reparations. Who knows? Maybe we could even get some reparation payments for what China did to us, right along with the Biden administration, right? You just know Democrats are grasping at straws, but just recently the White House called Democratic Senator Chris Murphy a moron on social media after the Connecticut lawmaker tried clapping back on a Laura Trump parody account that he thought belonged to the president's daughter-in-law. Even Lindy Lee, a well-known former fundraiser for the Democratic National Committee, revealed that donors are fed up with the Democratic Party and that it's in shambles following the presidential election. By the way, appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. But that's why they could be busting out another pandemic just to scare us. I mean, I really wouldn't put it past them, would you? Right, guys? I mean, hence this clip from New York. Watch this. Early rumors said that it could have been Ebola, but Ebola wouldn't have been treated this carelessly. I'm pretty sure, right? Ebola is one terrible disease that you don't want to mess with. So let's just hope that this really has been misreported, right? Now, so far, what we know is that the 2 patients were rushed to the hospital by emergency workers wearing hazmat suits, and people started talking about a possible Ebola infection because patients may have had contact with an individual or individuals who traveled to or from Uganda and had symptoms consistent with the disease, but no tests had actually confirmed his presence. Now, just for context, guys, Ebola is spread through contact with bodily fluids of an infected person or a contaminated material. Symptoms are really nasty too. Fever, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle pain, and at times internal and external bleeding. Now, the thing is, guys, these similars are also very similar to the norovirus. The difference being that the norovirus is deadly. And since they found out that the illness had spread quickly between family members, it was more likely to be norovirus. Plus, the interim commissioner of health at the NYC Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Dr. Michelle Morse, said on X that neither patient had exposure to Ebola or other factors that would indicate risk. So yeah, definitely scary to think about Ebola here in our country, but at the same time, we should probably be wary of groups trying to use this to kind of scare us or to even use this as a scare tactic to sow fear and division within our ranks. I mean, you know what I'm saying, guys? Case in point, back in 2021, House Ways and Means Committee Chair Jason Smith issued the following statement after the House Representatives passed H.R. 382, Pandemic is Over Act. It took House Republicans breaking up one-party Democrat rule in Washington to force President Biden to take the common sense step to end an emergency declaration that gave the government unprecedented power over Americans' everyday lives. Because even after President Biden admitted that the pandemic is over, he continued to use his permanent pandemic narrative to justify trillions of dollars in spending that sparked the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Smith then shared that only 9% of the Democrats' $2 trillion American Rescue Plan went to combat COVID, while $400 billion went toward policies that have kept millions of Americans out of work and on the sidelines of America's economy. In short, the Biden administration used COVID as an excuse for its $500 billion welfare for the wealthy student loan giveaway. At the time, Smith said House Republicans will hold the Biden administration accountable for the trillions of taxpayer dollars Democrats spent in the name of COVID, knowing that they had nothing to do with COVID, and instead pushed America into an inflationary crisis and further toward a debt crisis. Now, it might have taken a few years, but adults are back in control, and you can be sure that this whole pandemic industrial complex will be investigated under the Trump administration. Drop a quick yes in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you guys agree with what we're saying here. And in case you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Tap that notification bell for more updates like this one. Now, a little bit more about the whole COVID cover-up that happened. They heard from the House panel investigating this that 4 years after the onset of the worst pandemic in 100 years, the weight of the evidence increasingly supports the lab leak hypothesis. I mean, the finding wasn't a surprise, was it? The FBI, the energy departments, national laboratories, and former federal officials like Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe all reached the same conclusion. The real headline here is really that risky gain-of-function experiments funded by federal grants were being conducted at the epicenter of the outbreak in Wuhan, China. And so this is why President Trump has been pushing for accountability out of Beijing. More specifically, the president talked about forcing China to pay $50 trillion to compensate other countries for the widespread death and economic and social consequences of the virus. Plus, of course, there's Dr. Anthony Fauci. He was America's top infectious disease official at the time, and as you all know, he repeatedly downplayed a possible lab leak after the agency that he led, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, helped fund the EcoHealth Alliance's risky research in Wuhan. The Biden administration had a hand in Facebook censoring the lab leak theory as misinformation on the platform. I mean, what did I say, guys? It was a pandemic industrial wing, and we're just beginning to uncover the whole thing for the American people thanks to the Trump administration. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below. But let me tell you guys, Trump has his own machinery at work. In fact, they just added a piece to it, the Rapid Response Account, a new White House account that was launched in January to hold fake news accountable. And it's already working for us. Just recently, it slammed Democratic Senator Chris Murphy as a moron for thinking that a parody Lara Trump account actually belonged to the president's daughter-in-law. You see, he talked about the Trump regime threatening Democrats with arrest. But the Rapid Response Account quickly fired back saying, "You're a moron, Chris. It's obvious that this page is not affiliated with President Trump, his family, or the administration. We do, however, support your right to make such a statement, no matter how imbecilic it makes you look." Wow, they roasted this guy. Now that's what you call a total shutdown, guys. Now the icing on top, Murphy's tweet was hit with a community note saying how this was responding to a parody fan account and that Lara Trump did not issue such a tweet. I mean, it just hurts looking at the burn Murphy got from both the Rapid Response Account and X's community members. Democrats really just can't catch a break these days, and for good reason. Lindy Lee, a former Democratic National Committee fundraiser, pretty much summed it up when she told Fox News Digital that the Democratic Party is in shambles following the presidential election. Here, watch this.
Democratic donors, absolutely without a single exception, they are so angry and upset at the state of the party. They think the party is in complete shambles, and that's totally right. I actually had a donor call me at 3:30 a.m. just a few days ago complaining about how there's no leadership, the party is completely rudderless, and they basically elected 50% of the people who got us into this mess. I'm no longer part of that scene, but I don't know how they're going to get out of this wilderness. The leadership that they elected, they're so tone deaf. Their DNC vice chair is saying that we need to abolish ICE, that we need to defund police, and he's against the Second Amendment. The American people showed in November that this is not the agenda that they want. In 2004, Obama was already getting ready to run for president in 2008. This time, there's no one on the horizon who has that level of talent and ability to inspire. There just simply isn't. I don't see it. Do you?
Yeah, definitely don't see it either. Now, if you ask me, the Democratic Party is dying of self-inflicted wounds. I mean, nobody elected Harris in the first place, and yet they chose to continue with her as the candidate like some tyrant ignoring the voice of the American people. The whole thing even got Lindy Lee so fed up that she just quit the party after having raised so much money. They're talking tens of millions of dollars here for Democrats' 2024 presidential election. She announced her exit from the party in December after being ostracized for, get this guys, criticizing then Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, like, what the heck, right? She raises tens of millions of dollars for Democrats over the years, more than anything a lot of us are actually going to see in our lifetime. And she says one criticism about Kamala Harris and they basically just cancel her. I'm just surprised that she didn't leave sooner. Now, we're really getting the dirt on the party from someone who was deeply inside of it. And according to Lee, the party she once stood for is now completely rudderless. The way she described it, Democratic donors, absolutely without a single exception, they are so angry and upset with the state of the party. They think the party is in complete shambles. For her, she doesn't really know how they're going to get out of this wilderness. She described how the party has been hijacked by woke ideology, that it's their religion, it's their God. Woke is their God. This trans woke insanity they're enthralled with. Now, honestly, guys, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And now, according to Lee, companies are running as fast as they can from this toxic agenda, yet the Democratic Party is doubling down time and time again on this. For her, it's gender hysteria and it's almost like a social contagion. Lee even gave her thoughts on celebrities like Beyonce and Cardi B denying that they accepted payments from the campaign. Lee said that they lied about not getting paid. She pointed out that all their production companies were getting compensated. Oh, and there was that Beyonce appearance at that Harris campaign event in October. Y'all remember that? People thought that she was going to perform, but she ended up just giving a speech. Now, according to Lee, she honestly believes that the campaign used that to generate attention and publicity for their event. Fast forward to now, Trump thankfully won the election by a landslide, and the American people have given him both the House and the Senate by an overwhelming margin. Now, for Lee, there is no one on the horizon to lead the Democratic Party into the next election cycle. In comparison, Lee said the humanity and kindness that she's received from Republicans has been unbelievable, and that she's optimistic that she will retain her donors after leaving the Democratic Party, as she will now raise money for Republican candidates. Wow, we just picked up another one, didn't we? We're all right there with you, Lindy. People ask me all the time, whose side am I really on? Well, let me make it clear for you guys. I'm on the side of we the people who are fed up with government waste and government corruption. That's whose side I'm on. But let me know what you guys think about this. Drop me a quick yes in the comments down below if you want to hear more content like this. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks so much for subscribing, and we'll see you guys next time.